I took a Tesla Model Y on a weekend-long demo drive. Tesla offered me a weekend-long demo drive in the new Model Y, a new program the company is offering to people as a way to taste what it is like to own an EV. For me, it was a great look into owning an EV while renting a townhouse without charging infrastructure, but it gave me a lot more insight as well. A sales advisor at a local showroom texted me several weeks back to see if I would want to take the new Model Y from the showroom to my house for a weekend. I immediately said yes, scheduled a weekend when family and friends would be nearby to experience things like full self-driving, and booked it. I picked it up on Saturday at 6 p.m. as the showroom closed, and I was on my way back home within 10 minutes. First things first, my first order of business was getting some full self-driving demos in, taking my fiancée for a hands-free but supervised journey first. It was not her first time experiencing FSD, as we had taken a demo drive a few months back and experienced Hardware 3 and the past iteration of the Model Y. However, we only used FSD for about 10 minutes while checking out a Model Y to buy back in February. The next morning, we picked my parents up for breakfast and took them on their first ever FSD experience. They live in a rural part of my hometown in southern Pennsylvania, where there are no lines on the road, potholes everywhere, deer constantly crossing the road, and sharp turns that can be dangerous during the daytime, as you cannot see oncoming headlights. First order of business, took my parents on an FSD journey. Wow, this is crazy. You could hear the skepticism in my dad's voice as I started the drive. By the end of it, he couldn't believe how it navigated non-lined backroads to his house. It was really something to see how my dad changed his belief on FSD in the matter of just a few minutes. The night before, I took my mom and stepdad on a drive, and they felt the same way. My dad is just more vocal about his skepticism, so I was happy to hear the reversal of his perspective. Living without charging and how it changed my mindset. One of the biggest things that kept me from buying the Model Y we looked at in February was the lack of charging in my neighborhood. I do not get to park directly in front of my front door, and my neighborhood is still considering some minor infrastructure for residents. With the long-range all-wheel drive version of the new Model Y, Tesla boasts a range of 327 miles. We picked it up from the showroom at 98% state of charge. We ran our usual errands, went out to dinner, drove around for leisure to enjoy the car, and after all that, we still returned the car with 40% left. This truly eliminated any concerns I would have about charging at home, at least in the near term. Realistically, I would like to have charging at home. The experience made me realize I would probably be driving to a supercharger once a week to get range, which is about as frequent as I visit a gas pump now. It would not be a tremendous change, and it made me realize that when I do eventually make the jump, if I am still living in our townhome that we rent, I would get through it without any real issues. Take my words as a bit of advice. If you're overly concerned about not having charging at your apartment or home, don't stress too much about it. The good and bad with full self-driving. Overall, our full self-driving experience was incredibly valuable. My plan was to drive the car manually most of the time, but I truly only did that for roughly 5% of the miles we traveled together. I planned for a big stress test on Sunday evening, and that's what we did. We had to run out and get some things for a wedding we're attending this coming weekend, and it required us to travel all over York from the East End to the West End, much of which was spent traveling on the Lincoln Highway. In West York, this stretch of highway is incredibly dysfunctional, busy, and is one of the drives I rue the most in the area. Full self-driving made it very easy, as I just set the destination on several occasions, and let the car do all the work. Our first drive took us from our house to our local Target. It did everything flawlessly. I took over once we got into the parking lot, just to find a parking space on my own. Tesla. Full self-driving takes my fiancé and I to Target. Flawless drive. We'll document the rest of our errands today. I didn't record the trip from Target to the Burlington Coat Factory, just a mile away, but I did record the next leg of the trip, which was from Burlington in East York to Burlington in West York. This was when I had my first complaint with FSD, and it dealt with the operation in parking lots. You'll see at the beginning of this video that there was an instance where the car waited for one cross-traffic warning to stop before proceeding, but ignored Another cross-traffic warning from the other direction. The car pulled out on this person. You'll see me wave to apologize. Then I take control of the car, as it was too close to that other car for my liking. This was the only issue we experienced on this drive. On this drive, FSD pulled out of this spot while there was a car approaching from our right. You'll see the red cross traffic warning on the screen. It also approached that vehicle a little too close for my liking, so to be safe, I took over. I found that parking lots were a weak point of FSD. It is not that I did not feel confident in its abilities to make it through these lots safely, but it reminded me a lot of what I think a 16-year-old who just got their license would drive through a busy parking area. Hesitant, not confident, tentative. Several of our ex-followers said the same thing. Parking lots are a little bit of a weakness. Leaving the West York Burlington and heading to a Walgreens to pick up some pictures we had printed was the next leg of our journey. This was where we got to test a difficult off-ramp on I-83 South and Auto Park in the Walgreens parking lot. The off-ramp for the Market Street exit and the on-ramp use the same lane, so merging traffic can be a bit of a nightmare for those trying to get off of the highway, which is what we were trying to do. FSD managed it cleanly. As several cars were merging onto I-83, the car found a soft spot in the traffic and got off without any issue. This impressed me because I know it can be stressful at times, especially during rush hour. Auto Park worked well and backed into a spot with no issues. FSD did a great job of navigating through this parking lot and getting us onto a highway with a very short on-ramp, a very typical part of living and driving in Pennsylvania. Our final trip with FSD was from our home to the showroom. This would be our longest single trip using FSD, and it was the most impressive yet. The first thing it was tasked with was merging onto the highway with a very short lane to do so. FSD recognized this, saw an oncoming car that did not get over into the passing lane to make space, despite it having the room to do so as a courtesy, and sped up to take the slot it was given. It overtook slower cars, stayed in the right lane near on-ramps to make merging for others easier, and got us through the Harrisburg split with no issues. As we turned onto the Carlisle Pike, the right lane was closed about a quarter mile after we merged onto it. We had a vehicle beside us that did not want to let us over, so FSD waited, allowed the car to pass, and quickly took the 3-car length gap, safely getting on. This was a funny one, because I noticed my fiancée's hand grabbed the handle on her door as a reactionary response. She realized after it was unnecessary, and it did a better job than many people we know would have done. The new Tesla Model Y drove my fiancé and me back to the Tesla showroom today to part ways. It was awesome to have an entire weekend with this awesome car. This 45-minute drive is condensed to just 36 seconds. This finished our experience with the Model Y for the weekend, and it was hard to say goodbye. Conclusion: it seems that a trade-in will be happening in the coming months. My biggest reservation was residential charging, and I learned it really was not something I needed to be overly concerned about. Full self-driving was truly the big thing that sold me on this car. The new Model Y is obviously a great vehicle to begin with, but FSD was the #1 thing that I will miss because it made driving such a breeze. More novelty things I will miss are being able to watch YouTube while I wait in the car, and pranking people with the fart on contact sit happens feature, something that gave us all a good laugh. It was a great weekend with the new Model Y. In the coming months, I hope to get my hands on another vehicle for a weekend. Source: reposted and summarized from Joey Klender at teslarati.